So friends, today's session we will be talking about Sqoop. So far we have covered HDFS, and then we started with Sqoop. 1 minute, okay? Let me start recording. Can you guys hear me, and can you guys see my screen now? Please confirm on the chat. Can you guys see my screen? Hello? Okay. So now we are talking about Sqoop. Again, this is the next 1 hour. We will be talking about the other components as part of Big Data Certifications workshop. So far, we have covered HDFS. If you go back to the playlist, if you see, we started with HDFS and then we got into Sqoop. We have seen how to connect to MySQL database and validate that Sqoop and MySQL can work together. And then we slowly got into commands such as list databases, list tables, eval. And then as part of the last session, we have seen how to import the data using Sqoop import. We imported one table called order items, and we have seen what is the default delimiter and all those things. So as part of this session, we will get into the other details or other information about Sqoop command. Okay, again, I am connecting to the lab here. The sessions might have hung, just in case. So again, for this, you need to have active subscription and make sure you log in and you get the credentials either by clicking on Open Console, or you can just copy password, go to the terminal, SSH, username. Make sure you copy the password from here and paste it, hit enter. Now we are in the lab. So far we have covered a Sqoop import command with minimal arguments. So let me show what we have covered as part of the earlier session. Okay, so this is what we have covered. We have covered what is connect, what is username, what is password, what is table, which table we want to import. So all this information is about connecting to the database on a remote server and fetch data from a table. And then here we can specify either target directory and warehouse directory or warehouse directory to specify the HDFS location to which data needs to be copied. And also, as part of the last session, we have seen the logic about how it actually fetches data. So we have read through the logs that are generated, and then we have understood how it will actually get the metadata. And then there is a query called select min and max of order item from order items table, and then it use that information using number of mappers, which is by default 4, to compute mutually exclusive data sets. And then it actually fetched the data and copied into HDFS. We also reviewed the number of files and the contents of the files. The default delimiter is comma. Okay, now we will try to understand other parameters. Okay, so for that, you can say Sqoop help import. So while it is coming up, let me make sure that there are no technical glitches with respect to the streaming session. Yes, it looks fine. Okay. Now you can see there are different sections when it comes to Sqoop import. Okay. So either you can use this information or you can go to Sqoop user guide also, as demonstrated earlier. So here we will be focusing on control arguments primarily. Okay. So first, let us understand what is this append. We will go in order, unless and until uh, uh, unless and until something has to be highlighted out of the order, we will go in order. Okay, so the first parameter is append. So what is this? So already we have ran sqoop import command last time, and you see files. You can validate that it is done by going to the location which is specified under warehouse directory. We have imported a table called order items. You can see it here. Order items is the table name which is imported, and you can actually see order items directly here. Okay. Now let me run the sqoop import again and to see what is the typical behavior. So here you can see sqoop import connect the JDBC URL, username, retail DBA, password, table. This is the table name. And now if I use warehouse directory and if I give this path, what will happen? It will create a subdirectory. It is not the right way of doing. It will create a directory, a subdirectory under this location with order items, and it will copy the data to that location, which is not a good idea when using warehouse directory. Whenever you are using warehouse directory, you have to give the parent directory into which you want to copy the data. So here I am removing this order items portion of this command. Here, if you have any question understanding this, let me know. I will clarify. You can ask question anytime. Don't wait until the last minute. If it is out of context, I will tell, we will cover later. Otherwise, I will respond immediately. People who are on WebEx. Okay. Now I have given warehouse directory. What it will try to do? It will try to create a subdirectory with this name, and it will try to copy the data. Let us see what will happen with this command. What is happening? It is complaining that the directory which it is trying to copy already exists. Because it already exists, we have the directory with the table name under retail_db, and because we are using warehouse directory, it is creating the subdirectory under this name with the same name as table name, and it is trying to copy the data, and it's failing. So it is it is not correct if you it will. So if the behavior is like this, and then we will not be able to append new data to the existing directory. It is not possible. For that reason, if the directory already exists, if you want to append to the existing directory, instead of failing like this, what you can do, you just say --append and hit enter. Okay. Now it will actually append the data to the file. It's a duplicate data. We will see two sets of data because there is no delta we are trying to capture. Hence, you will see 8 files, 4 from the older import and 4 from the newer import. Okay, but ideally, when it comes to actual integration platform, we should be able to identify the delta and use append to the existing directory. That is the purpose of append. Okay. So now if I do Hadoop fs-ls on this location, you see 8 files. 4 of them are created on 25th of January and 4 of them are created on 27th of January. Let me take this call. Now let me unmute everywhere. Sorry for that brief pause. So now let us discuss. So here you can see 4 of the files are created as part of the last import, and 4 of the new files are created as part of the newer one. Your application should be smart enough to issue this sqoop import command leveraging other arguments. Hello? Yes? Yes? Okay, so I'm sorry for that again. Those Airtel guys are bugging me. It's a long story, and they don't know how to take care. Most of the people who attended my training earlier in Tawant, they know about this issue. This issue never ends, and they don't have any common sense. They never go through logs. They will just bug without understanding what the customer is doing. They don't have time sense or anything. Anyway, so coming back to this, we have 4 files from the last import, and we have 4 new files from the recent import. And the purpose of append is to capture the delta leveraging other control arguments, and then keep on adding new data to the existing directory. Okay, so that is purpose of the append. If you have any questions here about append, let me know before I go to the next argument. Okay, again I'm typing sqoop help import, and the next parameters actually determines how the file should be copied. So earlier I imported the data without specifying anything. When we specify nothing, by default it will assume that we are trying to import as text file. So whether we specify as text file or not, as part of this sqoop import, internally it will add this one as text file. Whether you specify it or not, it is the default behavior. If you want to create file in a different format, there is sequence. Out of the box, it supports sequence file format, it supports Parquet, and it supports Avro data file. Okay, so text file, even people who have attended the last session in Spark, there also we have spoken about sc.text file. So text file, every line which is separated by new line character is considered as one record. That is the behavior of text file, and it assumes that everything in that file is alphanumeric. So the question from Ritik: append will add the delta data to the existing data, or data can be redundant in the part files. I already explained that. So append alone will not take care of capturing the delta. Append will just read the data and add it to the target directory, whatever we have specified. Okay. If you have to capture the delta, you need to understand the other arguments which we'll be covering in future, and then you have to use these arguments in conjunction or together to get the delta and write only the delta in the append mode. Append is only will only make sure that instead of complaining that directory already exists, it will just create the new files with whatever data you are trying to read. So to capture the delta, you have to understand the other arguments which will help you in capturing the delta, and then use append in conjunction with that, and it will take care of appending the data. Okay. So here now we are talking about the file formats. As text file, it will try to read the data in text file format. Okay, where all the characters will be in alphanumeric, and we also actually previewed the data by using tail command. Okay, you can see data is actually separated by comma. That is the field delimiter by default, and text file will control that data is written in plain text format alphanumeric characters. Okay, so that's why the data is readable. Now, if I run Sqoop import, and here I am removing the append mode, and instead of, and then here I am using target directory, because with target directory we can change the directory name and write into a different directory than the table name. So here the source table name is order items, and I'm trying to write this new data set into a new directory which is different from the table name, which is order items underscore seq, which means sequence. And then I'm saying as sequence file. So here you need to understand what is a sequence file. Sequence file is proprietary to Hadoop. It got a lot of traction with Hadoop. So instead of writing in a plain text format with predefined boundaries of lines, it will actually generate metadata for each and every record, and based upon that metadata, it will actually store the data in binary file format. Okay. Now you see data is already copied, and if you want to preview, if you want to see what is happening internally, you can run Hadoop fs-ls user retail underscore db order items skew. So here you can see there are 4 files. There won't be any extension. Extension is it will not create files with extension. Only by looking at this you can confirm whether it is a directory or file. If the first bit is D, it is directory, otherwise it is file. Now if you try to see the contents of this, or actually you can say cat in this location for all the files, and then if you try to do wc-l, there are 172,918 records in the table originally. If you last class we have validated after doing the simple import, and you have seen that the 172,198 records are there when we run this command. But now if you see, even though 172,198 records are imported, when we do wc-l, it is only 7,744, because it's all binary data, and there is no record boundary like in text file. Okay, here everything will be in binary format, and a metadata will be maintained internally to tell when the record is ending or when the record is starting. And also, if you actually try to read the data from this by using tail, it will all be garbled data. It's all binary data. That's why it is showing up like this. Okay, so this is about how to write into different formats. You don't need to worry too much about what is sequence file, what is Avro, what is Parquet for the certification purpose. But when you are actually working on projects, it's very important to understand all these file formats and to determine which file format should be used when. I will try to explain that in a moment, but this is how you can actually write into different file formats. Now let us again run the Sqoop help, and let us see what are different file formats that are available. Okay, so here there is a text file which is already covered. There is a sequence file which we have seen. On top of this, there is a Parquet file and Avro data file. So Avro is by kind of JSON in binary. Okay, there are other concepts also. You don't need to worry too much about it. You just understand that Avro is nothing but JSON in binary format. Okay, and Parquet, I hope you all have knowledge about JSON. If you don't have, if you don't have knowledge about JSON, I will cover what is JSON. I will just give you basics. If you all know, then we will move on. And then there is other file format called Parquet. This is mostly you will not be having knowledge about this. I will explain what it is. So in data warehousing world, okay, it's all about reporting, and the report should be as faster as possible to make some of the decisions. Okay, we'll take the example of gender. Gender have only male and female, only two values. Okay, and then we typically generate reports about how many men are there, how many women are there, probably with some age ranges. We generate reports, right? 1 minute, okay. I'm putting you. Okay, so we are talking about Parquet file. So if you take the example of gender with some demographics, so probably we want to generate report within male between 15 to 25. We want to generate some report 25 to 35, 35 to 45. For example, I have a YouTube channel, and I want to see who, which age group and which gender are watching more. So there are very few unique values. Okay, and if I don't need any other field other than the gender and the age group to generate my report. There can be billions of rows, but when I want to generate report on gender and the age group, I just need data from those two fields. I don't need any other field. But my raw data for multiple purposes might have 20-30 fields in a table. But for a particular report about gender and demographics, I just need 2 or 3 fields. So if I store data in columnar format, where there are where the columns are very dense, where there are only few unique values, even though there are billions of records in a given column, the unique number of unique values are very few. If I can actually store in the columnar, if I only store gender and the age group in one file, and if I try to compress, you will get a very high rate of compression, and you can develop an application where the data which is highly compressed can be processed as quickly as possible. Okay, so for that reason, when the databases actually evolve from relational databases to data warehouse appliances, and then MPP, which stands for massively parallel processing, technologies such as Greenplum, Vertica, etc., they have introduced this concept of columnar storage and columnar compression. So when it comes to MPP, it's a internal or proprietary to their environment. But in the open source world, such as Hadoop and big data ecosystem, there are file formats such as RC file or ORC file and Parquet, which are which store data in columnar format. So in those scenarios where you have to store data in columnar file format, you can use either Parquet as ORC file. Okay, to get compression rate much higher, and the performance is also much better in the scenarios which I have explained. So if you have to decide to store in compression columnar format, then you have to use Parquet with Sqoop. So Sqoop automatically work with Parquet. On top of these things, you can also pass custom file format, but it's a little bit complicated. In most cases, these 4 formats are good enough, and text file to store data in text. If you want to store in binary format, you can use sequence file. So the advantage of storing in binary format is it need not serialize and deserialize the data every time you try to read the data. So performance can be better with sequence file over text file while the data is being processed. Avro is if you want to store JSON data in binary format, we use Avro, and if you want to store in columnar compression, we use Parquet file. So here you can one thing you need to understand is whenever you try to run in Parquet file or Avro data file, it will create a metadata file for you. Okay, so let me demonstrate with Avro file because it is important from the certification, especially for CCA. So to store it in Avro format, you have to say Avro data file, and here I am giving the directory path as Avro. Okay, hit enter. And it's very important to understand as much of this information as possible. Okay, here you see, again, I explained earlier also, first it will issue this command to get 1 row so that it understands the metadata of the table, and it generates this plain old Java object or Pojo, which will have class level variables, class variables matching the column names of the table and getter setter methods of it. And then it will use that to compile into a jar file, and this jar file will be used to run our Sqoop import as MapReduce job. Okay, and then when we actually try to create or try to do this Avro format, even with Parquet, probably it might be the case. You will see this intermediate step. This intermediate step will not be there with the text file, but with special formats like Avro, it will create something called AVSC file, and this is the location which it will create temporarily, and it will be used to write the data into HDFS using this metadata of Avro. Okay, we will get to that in a moment, how this metadata will look like. And then again, here also you see 172,198 records are copied. First, let us understand how many rows are there in the in that location. Okay, here WC. We are talking about Avro. Hit enter. Now you see there are 32,260. Because WC-L, we are only considering each line as one word. We are trying to get a word count based on lines. So it has only 32,260, even though the total number of records, if new line character is considered in text format, is 172,198. Because we are storing in binary format, in Avro format, etc., where metadata will be driven to identify the record boundaries, the number will be significantly different. Okay, that is the case with sequence file, and also with the Avro format, and also with Parquet file. And also wherever we ran this Sqoop import, it will create a copy of that AVSC file which was there in temp, because that's a temporary location that will be deleted. Hence, you will find the AVSC file along with the order items.java file. Okay, and if you look into this order items.avsc, it will have the metadata in JSON format, because AVSC, as I mentioned to you, Avro is nothing but binary format of JSON. Okay, there are few other concepts also, but you don't need to worry about it. That is more than enough to understand how the data will be stored internally. So here you can see the column name, type, and few other things. This is all metadata which will be used while writing data into HDFS. Now, if I say Hadoop ss-cat or tail, and hit enter. I have to put one more 0. Okay, here there will be extension also, Avro. Now you can see it's all binary data. Okay, and also my cluster have something called Avro tools. Okay, so using these Avro tools, you can actually convert that Avro file into JSON or JSON to Avro. So there is a command with to JSON which will actually convert our actual file, which is in Avro format, in JSON. So that you can actually say Hadoop fs -get is the command to copy files from HDFS into local file system. Here I am trying to copy this file into local file system. Now I can see it here. Okay, now I can say Avro tools to JSON. Give this file name, and Avro tools to JSON. It will take only one parameter, which is Avro file, and it will convert to readable JSON format. If you want to create a JSON out of it, you have to redirect. You have to use this redirect Linux way of redirection, and you can say part-m 00003.json and hit enter. Now it is done. You can say ls-ltr. You can see the JSON file. You can see the size difference because Avro will automatically compress. That's why the size is smaller. Now if I see JSON file, we can see each and every field in the JSON format. So that is how you can actually preview the data if you use Sqoop import with Avro data file as file format. Okay, so this is about file formats. Any question here so far? So we are slowly covering one after the other, all the control arguments, and we will try to understand how these things have to be integrated also once we cover each and every control argument in detail. Okay, anytime you have question, you can write it immediately. Don't wait until later point in time. And there is no question as bad question, even though last time when Ritik asked, I re-emphasized that I have already covered. Don't take it personally. You can ask any questions freely. You can ask 2 or 3 times without any issues. I will respond. Online, sometimes we get distracted. I can understand, and you might not be able to focus 100%. And I will be glad to respond. But I got used to say that, so don't take personally if I talk like that. Okay, so now the next one is auto reset to one mapper. So as I have mentioned to you earlier, so if we go back to the Sqoop import command, the output that has generated in the Sqoop import command, so it is actually running this min and max on the primary key or unique key by default. Okay, sometimes you might not have primary key or unique key on a table. So if you don't have primary key or unique key, the typical behavior of Sqoop is to fail. So let me reproduce that issue. For that, what I'm trying to do is I am connecting to retail_dba, connecting to the database as MySQL as retail_dba, host 101.itversity.com -p, password is itversity. Use, in this case I am using retail import. I don't want to use retail_db because it's a golden copy of data, and I don't want to manipulate that and cause issues for others. For that reason, I am using this playground called retail_import. Here, retail_dba have all the permissions. He can create tables, he can drop tables, he can delete data, he can insert data, he can do whatever you want. So already a lot of guys have created many tables here. Okay, so I'm also creating one table. Create table, same order items, no primary key. No PK means no primary key. As select star from retail underscore DB dot order items. I hope you understand this command. This is called as CTAS in uh, in traditional RDBMSs or in any RDBMS. CTAS means C for create, T for table, as means AS means A for as, S for select. CTAS. So create table as select. So we can actually select from one table and create another table using the metadata of the table which is being read. So if I run this command, it will not only create the table, it will also have the data. Already there are 172,198 records. But this table, I haven't created primary key. Okay. Now I am going back to this window. Again, I am logging in. Here, let me get the password. Okay. Now I want to do the import. Okay, order items, no PK. I hope that is the table name. Yeah, no PK. But the database is different. Now database is not retail underscore DB. The username and password are same, but the database is retail underscore import. Okay. And the table name is also no PK. Okay. And hit enter. Now it says, please specify one with hyphen split by or perform a sequential import with -m1. Because by default num mappers is 4. And it uses the primary key on the table to identify the min and max value. As we don't have primary key, it is failing. So there are multiple ways to fix this issue. Either you can use split by. Okay, split by means you can give any column. Ideally, we should give an indexed column for it. So it will satisfy the number of mappers using that split by column. So now here I will cover all the things, split by -m1 and also the other parameter which we are talking about, which is auto reset to one mapper. All these three are related. Especially -m1 and auto reset to one mapper are related. Okay. So now here first I will try to use split by. So if you go to the help, it is also under the control argument, but it will be somewhere at the bottom, split by. So I am covering this one now. Here I am saying split by order item ID. Okay, so why it is very important? So if you want to, so even in the applications, right, you will have a lot of workflow tables, log tables, etc., where there won't be any primary key or unique key, but there will be some index, right? And if you want to do some analysis on your logs or workflows to see what is the turnaround time from one stage of workflow to another stage of workflow, you might have to capture huge volumes of data from the database, store into Hadoop, and you can run analytics around it. That is one of the use cases where people use for POCs especially. Okay, in that case, you need to identify the indexed column. If you don't use indexed column and if you have 1 billion records, still it will try to apply that min and max logic on that column. And to get that min and max itself, if it is not indexed, you have to do a full table scan and get the min and max. That itself will take forever. It will, if it is Oracle database, most likely will run into snapshot 2 old error and your Sqoop import will fail. So it's very, very important to understand which column should be used in split by. Okay, because first it has to run min and max, and then it has to use the logic of mutually exclusive data sets, and each thread will do a full table scan because that column is not indexed. So each thread has to do full table scan, and the performance will be significantly poor. So even though for now, just for demonstration purpose, I am creating I am using a non-indexed column under split by in the project. It's not important for certifications, but in the projects, if you have to pull the data, if you want to use split by on a particular table where there is no primary key, you should consider indexed column, or you should consider even for the smaller smaller table, either you have to consider indexed column or use number of mappers as 1 or auto reset to 1 mapper. I will come back to auto reset to 1 mapper and number of mappers in a moment. Here I am using split by and hit enter. It will use order item ID and it will copy the data. Okay, now the data is copied without any issue. But if you actually focus on the IO that is being performed and the CPU time, it will be more for this table compared to the one which have primary key. We will do that analysis probably later. For now, it's logical. Now each thread will do full table scan and all. It will take more time. If it is larger table, you can see the difference immediately. Here we are talking about smaller tables, so you don't find that much difference. But in larger tables, you can see the difference immediately. So here, Hemant is asking one query, Durga, if the Sqoop query do not pull any data, will the mapper will create empty file? Very good question. Yes, that is correct. You will see an empty file. Okay. So that is typical. Even though you create, you have a wide range. If there are gaps within the data set, there will be empty files in that, and the processing will also be skewed. Some of the mappers will not do any work. Some of the mappers will do a lot more work, and you have to understand the skew problem also, which I will be covering after going through all the all the theory about the syntax. Then we will actually get into more real-time issues, and I will again cover at that time. Okay. So now, when it comes to this thing, if you have a very small table, and if you want to copy the data, instead of using the split by, you can also say, because if it is small table, there is no point in using multiple threads to copy the data. You can say either -n1 or -num-mappers 1. So if you go to the syntax here, these two are nothing but aliases. Either you can say -m space 1 or -num-mappers space 1. So that is what is happening here. Okay, so this is number mappers 1. Now it will fail. The table already exists. I have to delete and I have to rerun. Then it will work. I will delete, but I will demonstrate with the next parameter. Let me delete. Okay. Now, what we are seeing, either we have to say number of mappers as 1 or split by with an index column if the primary key does not exist. Otherwise, it will fail. So when you are trying to develop a sophisticated application, if it is if you have to come up with this logic about if the primary key exists, use four threads. Otherwise, use split. If there is an indexed column, use split by. Otherwise, if you don't have indexed column or primary key, use number of mappers as 1. This is writing this logic can be cumbersome. Okay, especially if your data tables are not very huge, and if you want to use one standard number of mappers for all primary key tables, for all tables which have primary key, and for the tables which don't have primary key, if you just want to use one as part of your data integration application, then instead of coming up with a dynamic logic to determine whether to use number of mappers as 4 or 1 or split by column, what we can do is we can remove this, go here, and again we are coming back to this section, auto reset to one mapper, copy this, paste it, and hit enter. So what will happen? If there is primary key, it will use whatever number of mappers we have specified on the -- num mappers. If you don't specify, by default it uses 4. Otherwise, if there is no primary key on the table, it will automatically reset to 1. You can see it here, number of splits is 1 because there is no primary key on the table. So it can reduce your some of your effort when you try to capture data on evenly loaded tables using even number of mappers for each and every table. If there is no primary key, if you want to use just one thread. That is the purpose of auto reset to one mapper. Any question here? I hope you understood what is auto reset to one mapper, what is the significance of num mappers, and what is the significance of split by. We have covered all the 3 things, and I also explained ways they has to be used. And again, Sqoop is just a command line utility which have bunch of commands. You will not be able to deploy a self-contained application with the commands. You have to use a programming language around it. People use shell scripting in many cases, and then you can actually automate the process of generating the Sqoop commands and submit to copy the data. So now the question is, you can assign as much as you want. It all depends upon the capacity. For that, you need to understand how the MapReduce jobs run, and then I will explain. I will be covering those little bit later. So for now, to answer your question, you can assign any number of mappers, but there is a caveat to it. Here we are trying to pull data from mission critical systems, mostly the systems which are live. Okay, you need to understand the side effect of using the number of mappers. If you use abnormally high number of mappers, then your Sqoop application will create multiple database connections, and it will start pulling the data using as much resources as possible on the source database, which can cause issues on the core applications that are running on the database. So you have to be very, very careful while increasing the number of mappers. You need to have a deep understanding about the side effects. Then only you should play with the number of mappers. Again, these things will be covered when we talk about some of the issues about Sqoop import. Very good question. I hope you understand my answer. Even if you don't understand, we will talk about it again as part of issues once the Sqoop import is covered in detail. Okay. Very good question. Okay, so next one is boundary query. Again, here Hemant have asked this very, very important question earlier. He asked me, what happens if there is no data read by one of the mapper while doing the Sqoop import? Will it create an empty file? It's a very good question. The reason is, now if you go through the data, we are trying to copy data from order items which have order item ID from 1 to 172,198. Okay. Now let me import one record. Let me insert one record into this table. Here again, I am actually exiting here. Okay, let me do this. Let me use this one only. Okay, and here let me create index underscore import. Okay, now I'm creating index on that order items NoPK table on order item ID. Index name is IDX. On table name order item NoPK, column name order item ID. Here I am only trying to create an index. I'm not trying to create the primary key. Okay, now we have the index, but we have primary key. If we want to leverage this index and use multiple threads effectively, we can use split by on order item ID, as I have demonstrated earlier. It will copy the data. So meanwhile, let me delete this directory again. Okay, now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to insert one record. Insert into order items NoPK values. Okay, here I am giving 10 million as one record in order items NoPK table. 1 million, and then rest of them are null. And there are 7 fields, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it has 6 fields. Order item, order ID cannot be null. Okay, it actually fetched the metadata and also enforced some of the constraints on order items NoPK when we ran CTES, but it did not create primary key. It only created some of the null constraints. Okay, all are not null. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, now I inserted the data. Let me commit. Okay, now let me run the Sqoop import. It's split by. Hit enter. Okay, it's split by order item ID. So again, it's very, very important to read through this information. Now you can see the minimum is 1. Maximum is 1 million when we actually run order item ID. And you can see split size is 250,000. Actually, it's 10 million. So split size is 2.5 million. So 1 to 2.5 million will go to one bucket. 2.5 million to 500,000 will go to another bucket. So now we will see what is there in the location, in that location. Okay, here I am running ls command. Now you see there is data only in 2 files. There are 2 empty files. So it covers the question asked by Hemant, I guess. And then the first file have most of the data, and last file which have the 10 million order item ID as 10 million have gone to the last file. Okay, so now there is a skew in the data, and it is very common in real world scenario. For example, if it is a bank application, okay, you might know that after deploying the application, there will be a smoke test by the user acceptance team, a testing team which is supporting the user acceptance. And only when smoke test is successful, then they will actually consider the deployment is successful. Then the application will be turned around to the users. Otherwise, it will be rolled back to the previous version. You might be aware of this flow. Okay. So as part of the smoke test, it is typical that they create some fictitious accounts. If it is a bank application, there will be fictitious accounts, and they will test all the important pages whether they are working without any issues. That's a very good testing practice before turning out the application to the users as part of the production deployment. So it is very common that there will be outliers of the account number, which is which will be supporting those use cases using fictitious accounts, the accounts which are officially non-existent. So typically, any bank will follow either a 9-digit or 10-digit account number or more. Okay, and they will not start the account number with one. If it is a 10-digit account number, they will start with some number. They will definitely start with they will not definitely start with one. And then when it comes to creating the fictitious accounts, they will create something like all 8s, all 9s, all 7s, some fancy numbers which will be remembered easily by everyone, and they will be testing with those. So when you try to fetch data from that application which have those fictitious records, and these fictitious records will be there in most of the tables wherever it is applicable, they will try to create these outliers, create some entities with these outliers, and they will try to use it as part of the testing purpose. If we want to discard those outliers while doing the import, why we have to discard? To address the skew. Now if I just discard that I don't want to copy this 10 million record, again I will get better distribution of the data. So what I will do here, I will try to run Sqoop import. Okay, and let me delete the data. And here I will be using boundary query. Okay, and if you go to the syntax, here we have to pass a statement which will give the min and max value. So we know that it is between 1 and 172,198. Or we can say select min of order item ID, max of order item ID from order items where order item ID not in. You can give all the fictitious accounts. So you can come up with a proper query, and you have to use that proper query. So the best practice of creating the query is you can actually say select, because we know what is minimum and what is maximum values. This is a valid query in MySQL. Okay, here we are in MySQL. I can say select 172,198, and it will only fetch those two records. But this is not a good query because this number will be increasing. We should not use this as part of our application logic. What we have to do, we have to say select min of order item ID, max of order item ID from order items where order item ID not in. You have to remove all these fictitious accounts. Here I have given 10 million and hit enter. Here I have to say order items underscore no pk. Okay, now it again got 172,198. So here I will punch in that query. Always better to validate in database and then use that query. If you directly use that query in the command, it will waste some time. Unless it runs, you don't know whether you are doing right or not. Okay, and if I hit enter, now you see it has used the bounding values query, and then num splits again came back to 1 to 172,198 and 43,049 is the split size. It came down from 250K to this value. And then if you do Hadoop ss-ls, now again data will be evenly distributed. So that is the importance of boundary query. Very, very important parameter to address the skew. Again, if you have skewness on all the tables, there is no global way of controlling it. For each and every table, you have to generate that boundary query in automated fashion, and you have to generate your query accordingly. Okay, so again, it's all about programming that intelligence into the application, which has to copy data from source databases into HDFS in robust and reliable fashion. So that being said, that's it for today. So far what we have covered Sqoop list databases, list tables, eval command, and when it comes to Sqoop import, okay, we have covered append, we have covered all these 4 file formats, we have covered auto reset to one mapper, we have covered boundary query. Tomorrow we will Monday we will be working on other statements. It will take 2 more sessions just to cover Sqoop import. Once the Sqoop import is done, we are almost 60% done of Sqoop. Rest of the stuff is 40%. It will be very fast. Overall, it will take 8 to 9 sessions. That being said, I will give 2 minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll catch up on Monday. Okay. So if anyone is typing, just let us know so that I will wait. Otherwise, I will give 15 seconds and then I will close the session. Okay, then thank you very much and have a nice weekend. We will catch up on Monday. Bye. And those who are on YouTube live, just wait for a few seconds. Thank you very much for attending these sessions. Again, they are all free, and there is a pattern. If you are watching for the first time, you have to go to the Big Data Workshop live training 2017 January. This I am actually doing for a corporate where I am teaching a lot of stuff for them. To have a backup of my classes, I am streaming to YouTube. At the same time, if you are familiar with my approach, you guys can come on board and learn. That's why I have created all these. I have made all this open for you. For the practical purposes, whenever I am demonstrating, I am actually using my Big Data Lab, which can be accessed using labs.itversity.com. It is a 8-node cluster. Whatever I am doing, you can practice. And also, I have a website called itversity.com. Here, I'm actually creating a course based on workshops. So it will take time to come up with the content in line with this course, but you can actually go through that course and you can learn. So go to itversity.com, click on courses, and the course name is Big Data Workshop Certifications. You can go here, and eventually whatever I am explaining here will be broken into pieces and will be in structured format so that anyone can learn. At the same time, if you don't have resources to practice, you can sign up for my lab. The plans are $14.95 for 31 days, $34.95 for 93 days, $54.95 for 185 days, and a student special plan of $74.95 up to 2 years. They can click on contact us and they will see all the details that are relevant for the students to sign up for student plan. Otherwise, these are the plans. You can join and you can practice on the lab on a 8-node cluster. As of now, there are 7 nodes. We'll be adding 1 more node within a week or 2. And as more and more people join, we will be adding more and more components to the cluster. And slowly we will come up with a very big, sophisticated cluster wherein people can learn any of the big data technologies at as low cost as possible. And again, to make it successful and to go to that level, Word of your mouth is most important than anything else. I don't want to spend money on any Google AdWords or any other digital marketing. If you can spread the news and get more and more subscribers on board, I'll be creating the content of the same quality which I'm teaching in these classes to cover many technologies, and also I will provide a platform for any of IT professional to learn big data. In future, we might expand to other technologies also, so that you guys can explore and learn. Whether you get a job or not, it's a secondary, but at least you will be able to up to date with technologies with as low cost as possible. Okay, and to make it successful, please do this favor for me. You just click on like if you like the content of the video. Also, there is a share here. You can expand this and you can share on your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google Plus, etc. On top of it, one of the revenue generating aspect for my platform is this one. So please share information about this in your friend circle so that they can come on board, start using the lab, and keep on practicing. As I mentioned to you earlier, 20% of the revenue will be reinvested on the cluster. We will not be spending money on the marketing. Rather, we will be reinvesting on the cluster, and we will expand it by adding more and more tools and technologies to the lab. Okay. So that being said, thank you very much for listening to my sessions. And this is a 42-hour sessions. After these 40 sessions, you will be able to clear the certification without any challenges. I will be covering all the aspects to prepare for 3 certifications, which I have covered earlier. You go through it. If you have any questions while preparing for the certifications, even though you are not part of my class or lab, you can go to discuss.itversity.com and start asking the questions. You have to sign up again here, start asking the questions. Even if you do not subscribe to my lab, we'll be glad to help you in clarifying the doubts. Also, if you want to volunteer, you are welcome. You can start responding if you have knowledge in one of the areas. You can always help others to get their questions clarified. That being said, thank you very much. Bye.